Hello friends, I welcome all the learners to today's module. This is a part of the unit Media Audiences. This unit has been broken into several segments. You will study how to analyze the media audiences, how consumers have started turning into prosumers, that is, they are also producing contents. And today we shall discuss understanding the basic characteristics of the audience. How target audiences are identified and recognized, why is it important to understand them and break the market into different segments, how it helps to give different media content and other products to such segmented target markets. Let us begin with the definition of audience. So friends, when we spoke of the audience in the traditional mass communication sense, and the initial models were SMCR, that is the sender, message, channel and receiver. At that time, the receiver was actually thought to be a docile and a dormant kind of a entity. The receiver did not have much to think about. But gradually, subsequently, the new models came into being where feedback was valued. And when feedback was inserted in the communication models, the receiver started getting more importance. The value became of that of an audience who is reacting to the message, and the character of public performance started being imbibed into it. An audience now means a person who is engaging with the media rather than a person who is just taking the media, sitting down as in the bullet theories. Mass media audiences are the receivers who are referred to as audiences are usually actually distanced from the media. For example, if a radio or a TV program is being shown, it is shot in a different time and space, whereas the viewer or the receiver is listening to it, viewing it, seeing it, interacting with it in a different time and space. So the advent of mass media demanded formalization of its audiences, be it the listeners, readers, viewers or any other medium that they are engaging with. They might not always be observable directly. This led to the requirement of measuring the audience. It became very essential so that you know about the public needs, the public opinions, to assess the sentiments of the audience, undergo the marketing messages and the advertising messages that were being given to them. For that, researches had to be done, and for several other economic reasons, it became utmost necessary that we do researches in media audiences and analyze their character. While doing this, the changing paradigms of audience have come to light. As mediated communication evolves, audience too needs to be redefined. Existing paradigms in mass media always treated audiences and receivers as ones towards whom the message is directed. However, with the economics of media industry, we come to see that the audience can be seen as different entities. Sometimes they assume the role of a consumer, sometimes that of a product, at other times many other roles. Let us consider this with examples. If there is a product or a service, say an advertising social message on Arogya Setu app or COVID-19, that message is being directed towards someone who has to consume it. At that time, your audience is a consumer because they're consuming into that particular message or a product or a service, anything that a brand is giving. Now let us consider a very different scenario, that of a TV channel. A TV channel is producing some content, manufacturing the content, and during that they want to give advertisements. So here the advertisers are their consumers who are buying into the product, which is the audience. So the television channel is now creating a product in the name of the audience. So audience now assumes the role of a product than of a consumer, because it is the revenue that keeps the channel going. Now let us consider a third scenario, that of the OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hotstar. Here, there are people who subscribe into the platforms and then view the content or engage with the content. It might also be interactive at times. At this time, the subscriber is the audience. So in these three examples, you can see that the audience becomes the consumer or the product or the subscriber or sometimes the content itself, depending upon the platform, the product and also the different so the audience can assume different meanings depending upon the product, the platform and the people that it is. No longer are merely the receivers. However, they are now the creators and also active communicators. In this picture here, you can see that how the media is converging, how different media has come into only one mobile, from the telephone to the radio to television to camera to your computer, it is all converged into one device. With this conversion, the nature of the audience has also started changing. So the emerging concept of the audience is totally new. With the media division and abundance, now there are two concepts that are happening. There is a division of the media and there is also a lot of abundance of the content. So there are TV channels, now there are hundreds of TV channels. There are OTT platforms, there are hundreds of OTT platforms. So there is the media which is not the same. Gone are the days when only Doordarshan or All India Radio would be there, or there would only be a handful of newspapers that you could read into. Now the media has become so abundant that there is a division which audience will subscribe to which media, which audience would listen to which channel or which radio or look at which podcast. So this way, this audience division and the abundance in media has led to the mass audience being fragmented. Now it is no more the concept of mass audience. The audience is now fragmented into smaller chunks. And we will go on further to see how this fragmentation is scientifically and with the help of research it is done. With the digital age, there are now audience who have the content which suits them, be it political, social, technological or even economic content. So there is a lot of diversification and this has led to demassification. Now you can't have one content which is actually aimed at so many people. Rather, you have to have different content aimed at different categories and classes of people. With the convergence and demassification, the media messages have now assumed the meaning of goods. Now they are like any other products that are packaged, they are marketed and distributed to reach the audience. And the audience has started assuming the nature of a consumer to those media goods. And media and entertainment is now an industry in which many industries are converging. Publishing, film, television production, popular music and sports are now all converged into the entertainment industry. So there are different meanings that have now emerged for the audience, for the media content and for also the entertainment industry. So this means the audience have now become consumers. The only way to know what you should talk about in any marketing campaign is to know who you are talking to and what they want from you. Now that the media is the content or a product that is to be served to the markets, the marketing strategies have to be applied. So you also need to know the audience who are consuming your media content. Consumers are becoming more and more demanding with lots of brands to choose from. The attention spans have significantly reduced due to clutter, chaos and time poverty. Thus, it is very important to know your target group, their need, their interests, their motivations and their aspirations in life. For example, you can see that even the video lectures that we are making are being consumed through a media. Now they are 30-minute lectures. Prior, we used to make 60 minutes, then it became 40 minutes. Now the attention spans are reducing and also the educational media content has to be catered to in that category. Why do you have to determine your target audience? See friends, not all consumers are the same and neither can your product be for everyone. The biggest challenge is reaching out to the right target audience. So if you've enrolled for this course, who are the particular people who will be doing a course on media, information and empowerment? And how do you reach them? Through what content? Any media content is not directed at everyone. It is intended for a group of people who are clubbed together on the basis of certain commonalities that share a functional or emotional relationship with that media product. This group of people, classified on the basis of specific characteristics or properties, is what we call the target audience. Now, what is the benefit of segmenting the audience? You better understand the customer and the needs and wants. There is effective communication reach towards them. Now, because you better understand them, you are able to use the communication channels that they will respond to. It also provides direction as to how to reach them. A value is created. You have edge over your competition. There are opportunities for growth and the optimal use of the budget and finances can be done if you are very clear as to which segment of the market your content is targeted at. Now that you understand that why segmentation is important, let us come to the types of segmentations. How do we segment different kinds of markets? A market segmentation strategy is aimed at dividing a mass heterogeneous market into different small homogeneous segments of buyers. Each segment has individuals who have similar interests and needs. The interest of each segment, however, may vary with regard to different products. So for different products, you have to do different market segmentation. You can't say what worked for films would work for newspaper when you are segmenting your audience. Now there are 5 types of segmentation strategies that we'll be discussing. These are based on measurability, accessibility, sustainability and the actionability, that how measurable these characteristics are, how much you can take them into the action finally when you are conducting the whole market survey, and how you can target those products to these people. Now let us come to the segmentations one by one. The first market segmentation is demographic segmentation. To segregate a market on the basis of population, that is on socio-economic criteria that can be based on variables such as age, gender, income, or educational qualifications, occupations, marital status, family size, race, ethnicity, nationality and many other things. These come under demographics. Now these are one of the most simple and the commonly used forms of classifying the audience. Demographic is actually statistical information that does not require in-depth analysis to provide an answer to it. Thus, a qualitative method technique is not required. Basically, only quantitative data collection can lead to the knowledge about the demographic segmentation of the market. There are various demographic considerations, and like we discussed that what they are, let us see how they can further be classified. As an example, let me take subsets of age. Now, age is divided into age cohorts. Cohorts are groups of audience of same age with similar experiences. Let us see as examples, marketers or media content makers use certain cohorts of age to classify demographic profiles of their audience. One is baby boomers. Now these are children who were born post World War II. This was an area of industrialization and liberalization, and these are the people who were actually consuming goods more than the earlier ones. So this is a consumerism area, and that is when the media also started more, radio was gaining popularity. Gradually after that, television was introduced after many decades of that. So there is a basic characteristic of baby boomers. These are the people who consume the traditional media more. Then there is a division called Gen X. Now these are the people who were born between 65 to 79. They have certain specific characteristics that they had, the ways that the attitudes were. They were the people who would live in joint families. The scientific temperament was blooming at that time. Then there is something that we call Gen Y. These are also known as millennials. These are the ones who were born between 1980 and 94. They are currently between the age groups of say 25 to 40. Then there is Gen Z. These are the people who were born from the mid-90s. This is the age group that has grown into the communication technology driven world. They are also referred to as iGen or centennials or post-millennials. So Gen Z is the newest generation to be named because they are the latest ones who are now the consumers. Like we have discussed the age cohorts, there can also be various subsets of other demographic variables. For example, marital status. So you can classify people into unmarried, newly married, married with children, married with no children, married living into joint families. So there is DINK, double income, no kids group. There is DYNK. So there are parents with single children or people who have double incomes or single incomes. So this way you can categorize the people who are married. There can be others like gender. So earlier we would classify gender into males and females. Now there is the other gender community, which is the LGBTQ community. So with the changing times, how the demographics are perceived also gets changed. Then there can be the family life cycle, people who are living in nuclear families or joint families or extended families. So when you talk of demographics, that's not only the age, there are so many different categorizations. Marital status we just saw, family life cycle, and then we talk of income. So socio-economic categorization based on what is the social status, what is the income category are also there. So different demographics can have many different subsets. Now these are the people who have these common characteristics, and between them they can also have many variabilities. Now let us come to the second segmentation, which is the psychographic segmentation. The use of sociological or psychological and even anthropological factors as well as consumer behavior like style of living, self-concept, when all these are used to determine how different market segments make decisions about a person or a product or even a different philosophy or idea. This is known as the psychographic segmentation. Here you include financials, lifestyle, hobbies, personality traits, values, opinions, interests of the consumers. Analyzing this is beyond the demographics, like demographic was limited to the statistical analysis. Here you get more intimate details of your consumers' lifestyle and thinking processes, and you gain a more deeper understanding into the preferences of the consumers. Now let us look at some basic categorization of the psychographics. The first one is known as AIOS, which stands for Activities, Interests, Opinions. This is an acronym for this. Activities are ways in which the consumers engage. They may include hobbies or special interests, activities like trekking, mountaineering, going to kitty parties, swimming. Then they can be different consumers based on the interests. These are the preferences and choices in fashion, in books, in leisure, in recreation, or even the food choices. Then there are opinions. These are consumers' views on self and society. What are their political views, religious views? How do they react to a certain social or a medical situation that is happening? So based on this activity, interest and opinion categorization of psychographics can be made. There is another one which was developed by Arnold Michel, which is WELS, values and lifestyle. This classifies based on the basis of attitudes, beliefs and personalities. 3 audience motivations, which is ideals, achievements and self-expressions are used, and Arnold divided based on all this the audience into 8 categories. So 8 categories you can see on your screens are thinkers, achievers, experiencers, then believers, there are strivers, there are makers, then there are the ones who are the higher ends which are innovators, and the lower ones which are the mere survivors. They are making the both end meets. So your media content or any other product is targeted at these people based on this understanding, becomes much more penetrative and reaches them in a better manner. The third categorization that we use to analyze our audience is the behavioral categorization. Now this organizes the consumer market based on their purchase related decisions. What influences the purchase decisions? What purposes do they use to purchase a good for? Their responses towards the product finally, as in why do they watch a certain movie? Why would they tune into this particular news channel and not the other one? So their interests, hobbies and past purchase activities gives an understanding into the consumption patterns, the usage behavior and the buying behavior. For example, online purchases instead of going to the store. So when online media is gaining momentum, so this is how you can categorize your audience. Or maybe there is a certain category of audience who changes their phone every year, opposed to the ones who keep a phone for say 4 or 5 years. Then there may be the younger buyers. If you go to product categories, the younger buyers may use body washes. However, the older ones might prefer the soap cakes. So whom you have to reach? So when you talk of hand washes, so there are soaps, there are liquid hand washes. So as similarly it happens with the media content also. So the behavioral categories can be subdivided into basing upon the purchase occasions. Are these a regular buyers or they are special occasion buyers? So maybe if you come to the media content, are these the people who watch a movie every day or they go to watch a movie maybe only on birthdays or anniversaries or festivals? Then there is the other one which is about the benefits sought. What kinds of benefit are these audiences seeking from your content or product? They can be functional benefits like I want to know what the news is. Then they can be value for money. I've subscribed to Amazon Prime for 999 rupees and I must watch this much of the content or make this many purchases to justify my value. Then they can be social benefits. All my friends are watching content on OTT platform, therefore I also need to subscribe into it and watch it. Then there can be positive emotional benefits that they gain out of it, out of watching a certain serial. Maybe they wish it is a stress buster for them. There can be negative emotional benefits also, where you do away with your negative emotions by buying into a product or watching a content. Then you can have a certain subdivision based on the user status. Are these the solo users who use only your product, or the discount users who use your product only when you are on sale or offering certain discounts? Then there are aware non-triers, the ones who are just trying your products, or the one who have rejected your content. Then they can be usage rate based on that, where they are heavy consumers, medium consumers, low consumers, or no consumers. They do not take into this content. Somebody who doesn't buy the newspaper, that a particular newspaper, is a different person who buys that newspaper every day, is a different audience categorization. So this was based on the purchase decisions. Now we come to the fourth categorization, which is the lifestyle categorization. So this is defined as a person's pattern of behavior which is closely related to the consumer's personality and values. It is often determined by the purchasing behavior and the product preferences they have. If a marketer or a media content maker can conduct lifestyle research through previous purchasing behaviors, then it gives an excellent understanding into the lifestyle of the audience. So friends, we have seen demographics, psychographics, then we saw the behavior patterns and lifestyle which can be together clubbed into the sociographics. So they are demographics, psychographics and sociographics. We have considered 4 categories, but they can also be further clubbed into 3. Now is the 5th category, which is the geographic category. That is based upon where your audience is living. Whether you can have different categorizations, maybe based on a city, whole country, a continent, or they are the people living in mountains, or so this would depend how you have to do your content or your product. For example, there are many states which consume liquor so much. So if you have to do an anti-liquor campaign, you probably have to do it, say, in Punjab or in Haryana. You don't have to do it in Pondicherry because that is a dry state. So knowing the geographical locations also helps you understand the cultural differences, and thereby you can have your media messages or media content or any other different product or services which is targeted at them. The market is divided on the basis of geographical locations, and these locations play a very vital role in defining the needs of these individual geographical groups like we just saw. It helps in localizing your products or advertising or content. So there are also different factors that researchers study, which can be the population density or regional climate, etc. So if you have to give certain content which is in a very area which has high temperature, so these are very hot climatic areas. So what kind of movies you would give? You know, some movies release best when it is a winter season. Some content is viewed best when it is rainy season. So even media content, which is an abstract thing and you can't touch it, it is not a tangible product. Even that is based upon different geographical locations. So you would see there are different movies which work in South. However, there is different content that works in Hindi movies or maybe Gujarati movies. Bhojpuri content is so different. So based on the geographical locations, you can again have subsets. These can be people who are visitors to that area. They have just gone and they are tourists. They don't stay there, so certain content can be targeted at them. They can be residentials or workers of that area. They can be people who have come there for business, industry or service. And they can be export markets which are in different geographical locations but not located there. Now friends, you have seen these 5 basic categorizations. Now the good and the interesting part is they are sometimes taken together and a great hybrid is made. For example, they can be geo-demographic segmentations where you club the geographical and the demographical data and you evolve new market segments to be targeted. See, these means people from one area or location who have likeliness in age, income, education or gender, and then the content of the markets are targeted at them. For example, in India, if you look at the Punjabi community, so this is a community which is known to eat outside. So usually the marketers or the content makers target these communities whenever there are advertisements for eateries. So the Punjabi community is targeted. There can be new people who can be evolved. You can have new categorization like movers and shakers or young-minded consumers. New emptiness, so these are the retired senior citizens whose children have moved out. So these are the people with disposable incomes but not much to spend upon. So you can target products on them with different categories. Then there are boomtown singles. These are referred to as young achievers who consume the media like print, TV, internet platforms. Then there are bedrockers. people who are just barely making both the ends meet and they don't have much to spend on the media content or other products. So this kind of target segmentations are made. Now you would have kind of more or less understood that how markets can be segmented and how you can have a different category. Now let us take a basic example. You can see on your screens an example of an audience profile. So for example, males aged between 35 to 40 who live in India and have a university level education. Now this is what categorizes a person's gender, age, location and the education level. So based on the demographics, we have reached this kind of a segmentation. Now we go further and take the psychographics. So we will say, now let me repeat the whole thing and you can see the divisions, how psychographics, demographics, geographics, lifestyle and attitudes are taken into this categorization. Males aged 35 to 40 who live in India and have a university level education based on demographic are a social extrovert from a top middle economic class and practice an active lifestyle. This is psychographic. This person lives in South Delhi is geographic. They read news on their mobile and they do not prefer that on which newspaper this news was published. Now this is a behavioral characteristic. And they like to watch movies and theatres on the weekend with friends. This is the lifestyle. So based on all this, we have been able to reach a particular category of audience. Now you can target this category to market any kind of product to them, be it media, service, brand, product, consumable, tangible, intangible, abstract product or a mere idea. It can even be a political candidate from a party. So this candidate would appeal to this kind of audience. A different candidate would appeal to different kind of audience. And therefore, in different areas with different groups, the party actually gives tickets to different kind of people. So you're just able to see that how across all the product markets, we can use these segmentations. Now, how do we put these segmentations to use? There are many methods for demographic, psychographic, geographic and behavioral data collection. These can be quantitative methods which involve statistical processes like surveys and questionnaires. They can also be qualitative methods that involve in-depth approaches like focus group or comprehensive interviews. Once any business has gathered data from the consumers about their different profiles, they can now analyze this and use it to identify the target audience. And once the target audience has been identified, now this can be used to create the content that will resonate and effectively communicate with this particular category of consumers. So based on this, there are different kinds of audience targeting that we do. Let me briefly run you through this. Now these audience categorization leads you to targeting your markets. Now this segmentation it can be undifferentiated segmentation where you are not targeting different people, you are just giving a broad advertising message or a broad media content which is aimed at all the people and you are not targeting it. So these messages do not involve much of knowing of the audience. So you can say, okay, for all the Indians, the Prime Minister will be giving this address to nation and he is not targeting it to different people. This is common for all of them. So while this gets relayed on radio or television, so this media content which is addressed to nation becomes a media content is being given to undifferentiated market. Now the second is differentiated or segmented targeting, where you say, okay, today the finance minister will have her meeting only with the bankers. Today she will talk only to the stock market people. So these are differentiated markets. For the media content, you can say that different markets, Alt Balaji has a content which is targeted at smaller or rural kind of smaller cities or rural audience, whereas Netflix has content which is targeted at metro living or younger English speaking kind of an audience. So this media content is again, this is differentiated marketing segmentation. Then you have concentrated, or we even call it niche targeting, where that is very, very niche. Okay, only for +1 and +2 people, this who are preparing for competitive exams, Akash institutes are giving this kind of a knowledge. Byju's is targeting only the people who are doing school education. Our MOOCs are targeting only the people who are graduates and planning to do this post-graduation in this particular field. So this is niche or concentrated segmentation of the market. Then there are micro, where you also can do local or individual targeting. So this is very, very, very micro targeting. For example, real estate people. If you tell a real estate person, I want to buy this house, he will be searching houses only which are individually suited to your budget, needs, family size. So this is very individualistic market segmentation and targeting, which is micro. So friends, I hope today with this lecture you've been able to understand the basics of target audiences, the need of segmenting these audiences, and how your media content or any other product or service is more beneficially reached when it is targeting and segmenting these audiences and these markets. I hope you are able to create better media content and able to understand the media content that you view or consume with this knowledge at your hands. All the best for your future classes.